from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Onyato.
Hello and welcome. NDDC controversy continues as House of Representatives summons Niger Delta Minister Ighodalo Akpabio and Interim Managing Director of the Commission, David Ponde. Rivers State Police Command asks Governor Nyesom Wike to hand over sacked NDDC Managing Director Joy Nunye for questioning. Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, John Toho, goes into isolation after his aide tests positive for COVID-19. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson believes COVID-19 restrictions will ease further in England by Christmas. Plus, we'll have business, sports, news from Abuja, the FCT, and later on news from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's inflation rate hits 26-month high amid rising food prices.
On sports news, Leeds United gained promotion to the Premier League after 16 years away from England's top division.
And from Abuja, National Assembly Commission approves appointment of new top management officers for the National Assembly. Names Olatunde Ojo, acting clerk.
The last has definitely not been heard about the ongoing public hearing by the House Committee on the Niger Delta. And that's because following fresh allegations at the hearing today, the committee has summoned the Minister of the Niger Delta, Ighodalo Akpabio, and the Acting Managing Director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Professor Daniel Ponde, to appear before it next week. Both men have been summoned to defend themselves on the allegations leveled against them by the former acting managing director of the NDDC, Mrs. Joy Nunye, and other participants at the investigative hearing of the committee. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
Committee, thank you.
The public hearing of the House of Representatives Committee on the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, enters its third day. It was initially scheduled to be a 2-day hearing, but was extended due to the absence of some key stakeholders, one of which is the former acting managing director of the NDDC, Joy Nunye, who was held up at a Port Harcourt home by security agents. She was eventually rescued by the governor of Rivers State and taken to the government house, from where she joins the committee virtually. Her submissions are daring.
Road Peter on Street 5, 2 kilometers. There will be 15 companies that have been awarded that same contract. Senator Akpabio says, go and get a contract. Get a contract, 5 billion. I say, sir, I cannot do that contract. Because he wanted me to award a contract for what is in the store. How can I award contract for what we have in store?
The forensic audit of the NDDC was approved by President Muhammadu Buhari, and he is largely relying on the report for his next line of action.
There is no forensic audit going on. Why? They got a certificate of no objection for the procurement of the forensic auditors. I challenge Senator Akpabio because he has sold a dummy to Nigeria. I challenge him to bring one of these Imanko, Okon and Co, to come and say that they are indeed carrying out a forensic.
She also expresses fear for her safety and makes recommendations for a better NDDC.
The police that were my police audits, they were sent to my office by Akpabio's former ADC when he was governor of Akwa State. I didn't know that. So if I went to Peter's house, if it's a perceived enemy of Senator Akpabio, he will be told that I am right now in Peter's house. I give you an example. I went to see Mrs. Silva, who has been my longtime friend for over 20 years. Senator Akpabio says, yes, you went to see Mrs. Silva. You know, the husband said this at FEC and that. You must not go there again. My recommendation would honestly be that the NDDC be taken back to the office of the SGF, because the SGF is very, very busy. He won't go out of his way to start looking for NDDC money.
More allegations are received from an organization whose official claims to have carried out extensive research work on the NDDC.
Then tells buildings and logistics. This company was given the contract for emergency consultancy for provision of refresher training for caregivers on prevention and treatment of coronavirus. And the contract sum was 268,481,250. This is a logistic company, but given a training contract for health care workers, for caregivers.
Following the huge allegations, the committee resolves to issue summons.
The Honorable Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Dr. Akpabio, is hereby summoned by this committee to appear before it 11 a.m. on Monday. The Acting Managing Director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Professor Keme Badimo Daniel Ponde, is hereby summoned.
The committee is taking a step back from its earlier resolution to issue a warrant of arrest on the MD of the NDDC, choosing to summon him this time. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Akpabio, has been reacting to the series of comments made by Mrs. Nunye. Senator Akpabio describes the allegation of corruption, sexual and workplace harassment, pipeline bombing, amongst others, as false and deliberately targeted at his person. His statement reads in part, Mrs. Nunye never deemed it fit to report the alleged incident to the police at the earliest opportunity she had before, during or after her tenure as acting managing director of the NDDC on February the 17th, 2020, if indeed the allegations are true. He adds that waiting till July the 10th and 13th, 2020, when the National Assembly appears to be probing some of her actions as the acting managing director of the Interim Management Committee, exposes her motive, especially at a time when there is momentum for a forensic audit. He further alleges that Mrs. Nunye's attacks are both personal and sponsored by those afraid of the truth, and that those who wish to bury it from seeing the light of day are strenuously behind Mrs. Nunye's campaign of calumny. On the allegations of contract racketeering, bombing of oil pipelines, corruption and diversion of funds, the minister explains that he has only awarded 3 contracts to date: the appointment of the lead forensic auditors, which was approved by the Federal Executive Council, the emergency procurement contract for COVID-19 intervention in the Niger Delta area, and the award of vehicles procurement duly approved by the Bureau of Public Procurement and the Federal Executive Council. And staying with the NDDC, the last is yet to be heard about the foiled attempt by the police to arrest Mrs. Nunye in Port Harcourt yesterday. Now it seems the police is preparing for a showdown with the state government, as the Commissioner of Police has asked Governor Wike to hand her over to them. The police chief, Joseph Mukon, insists that Mrs. Nunye is currently under investigation and that the policemen from the Inspector General of Police Monitoring Unit were endorsed by the River State Police Command before proceeding to the residence of the ex-NDDC boss.
If His Excellency is saying that we went to rescue her under normal circumstances, he's supposed to turn her over to me. I'm the Commissioner of Police on the ground, and I will be in a better position to protect her than for him to take her to government house. Nobody said he should not protect his citizens. Everything should be done within the confines of the law. I'm the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the command. So if you rescue your citizen, we expect you to turn her over to the police, who are in a better position to protect her. But I still believe he's going to turn her over, because the exercise was legitimate, was within the confines of the law. So the reason we go to show that we should turn her over to the police.
One of the issues that's been raised over the Niger Delta Development Commission spending is the sponsorship of some students on postgraduate degrees abroad. But it's not been a sweet experience for most of them, who complain that their studies are in jeopardy because the NDDC has failed to pay their tuition. 4 of them spoke to Channels Television, and here are their stories.
People resumed in September, some resumed in January. Nobody has received any payment from the commission. No payments. The schools have written countless emails to the NDDC. The NDDC has not had the courtesy to return or to reply any of the emails from the institutions. The institutions are fed up, and as of now, they have transferred the tuition debt to the students themselves. I for one, I have to 28th of July, which is in 11 days, to pay my tuition, or my studentship will get suspended.
So it's not good for our nation's image abroad for us to keep doing this. What if scholars get lured into a life of crime overseas? It doesn't make sense to round up some of the best brains in the region, send them off abroad to take them through hell. Already doing research and studying is already mentally tasking. So to add this stress, this extra stress of not knowing how to survive, that is wickedness. And we hear every day on the news about the amount of money that's been squandered in the NDDC. So it's really sickening how, they could actually be this wicked to us.
I want to beg all the authorities, the presidency, the Senate, the minister, all of them involved, please, they should prioritize our payment. We need this money paid. I give, for me, after Wednesday next week, whether that the 1 month I pleaded for expires, I don't know what to do. There is no way I can raise money to pay this fee. No one back home can afford it.
Those of us that are still in Nigeria, they can reach out to us. We are not ghost scholars. And to be sincere, I sold practically all my personal belongings to journey to and fro this journey. And then some concerned friends helped me, took loans on my behalf to give to me. I still owe them. As I'm talking to you, I don't have any job. I am not gainfully employed. I am living from hand to mouth.
The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Toho, has gone into self-isolation following a confirmed case of COVID-19 among his aides. A statement by the court's acting information officer, Catherine Obinwandu, says the Chief Judge has also ordered some key staff in his office to do the same. The statement adds that they are to remain in self-isolation pending the outcome of tests conducted on the Chief Judge, members of his immediate family, and close aides. He is also encouraging strict compliance with the health protocols against COVID-19. In Kano State, efforts are on to reduce the number of infections, with recent data suggesting a spike in the number of cases in some local government areas. Taurano is one of the 18 local government areas affected, and it's being considered for another lockdown by the federal government to curtail the spread of the virus.
Taurano has been identified as one of the local government areas in Kano State where the guidelines for the prevention of COVID-19 are not observed. The cited markets and motor parks give credence to this. The level of compliance to prescribed protective measures is low. Many are not wearing face masks, one of the basic preventive items easily affordable. Majority of the residents here have personal reservations about the use of protective kits. Others believe that the virus either does not exist or is not as grave as medical experts warn.
The idea of going to quarantine somebody here is very difficult because their way of life, way of business, they need to go out, they need to do this, and they have to shop from somewhere to bring to their daily home for feeding.
Understanding how the virus is transmitted can help communities curb its spread.
One thing that is very important is for people to take action as individuals. They should maintain the habits of regular hand washing with soap and water, use of hand sanitizers in the absence of water supply, and then to ensure social distancing.
More testing is required as experts give reasons for possible increase in cases in Taurano local government area.
80% of the infections are mild. So the individuals do not even know that they have been infected.
In the absence of a vaccine, increased awareness and compliance to the COVID-19 preventive measures are of top priority to ensure a decline.
Even if a vaccine is developed, in probably 2 years' time, that vaccine will lose its potency, and then a new one has to be reinvented.
The eased lockdown brought relief to most people. Having another lockdown can only be more worrisome. Residents of Taurauni are directed to keep on with the washing and sanitizing of their hands and observing social distancing.
In part 2, after the break, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority inspects Sultan Abubakar III International Airport, Sokoto, ahead of resumption of operations. That's in a moment. Do join us again.
Oh, stay safe, stay healthy.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. NDDC controversy continues as House of Representatives summons Niger Delta Minister Godwill Akpabio and Interim Managing Director of the Commission, David Ponde. Rivers State Police Command asks Governor Nyesom Wike to hand over sacked NDDC Managing Director Joy Nune for questioning. Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, John Toho, goes into isolation after his aide tests positive for COVID-19. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson believes COVID-19 restrictions will ease further in England by Christmas. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android, Fire TV, and Roku as well. It's good news from Lagos State, where 42 patients have been discharged from isolation facilities. The patients were discharged having tested negative for COVID-19 and found to have fully recovered. 17 of the patients are female, 25 are male, and this number includes 10 foreign nationals. 8 of the discharged patients are from Bagada, 5 from Agidingbi, 15 from Etiosa, and 6 from Onikon, 8 from the Lagos University Teaching Hospital Isolation Center as well. Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State has made his first public appearance after testing negative for COVID-19, and he's been recounting his experience alongside other members of his family. The governor says God's mercy saw the first family through the challenge. He was speaking at the family Thanksgiving service at the Government House Chapel, Asaba. Governor Okowa also admonishes those who think that his family was given money to declare that they tested positive for the virus to have a rethink.
Thank God that my daughter went for that test, because we did not even think that the symptoms of severe was going to be COVID. And we decided after she tested that all of us should test. We're having minor things here and there. And you will not believe it, that it attacked the 3 generations in the house. But we're all living in the same place. Myself, my wife, our children, and our grandchildren, except 1, the youngest of them. Because our goods. A very terrible thing. But thank God for everything.
To efforts to curb COVID-19 in the aviation sector, where officials of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority carried out an inspection on the Sultan Abubakar III International Airport in Sokoto ahead of resumption of operations. The inspection commenced from the entrance of the airport through the parking space to the departure lounge and the terminal area. No official statement was issued regarding the inspection, as journalists were restricted from accessing the facility throughout the duration of the inspection. It's not clear yet if the airport will be given approval for commencement of operations, but airline operators at the airport hope the approval will be granted for business to resume. Let's cross over to Abuja now, and here's Linda Akigbe. Linda.
Hello, Ijoma. Now to the legislator. The National Assembly Service Commission has announced Mr. Ojo Olatunde as the acting clerk for the National Assembly. He replaces Mr. Sani Omolori, who was recently suspended from service. The commission has also approved the appointment of other top management officers of the National Assembly. Mr. Bala Mohammed has been approved as the acting deputy clerk, Dauda El Laden, acting Senate clerk, and Yusuf Dambata, acting secretary of the National Assembly Service Commission. Mr. Patrick Giwa is to remain as clerk, House of Representatives, pending his retirement in November 2020. The tenure of Mr. Moluri has been a matter of controversy in the National Assembly, with arguments raging back and forth that he has satisfied the retirement age condition of the service set at 65 years or 35 years in office, whichever comes first. Mr. Molori had argued that the 8th National Assembly had extended his days in office after it amended the condition of service, increasing the retirement age to 65 years or 40 years in office, whichever comes first. President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated Professor Charles Igbu on his appointment as the Vice Chancellor of Leeds Trinity University in the United Kingdom. Acknowledging him being the first black person appointed helmsman of a ranked university in the UK, President Buhari urged him to continue to proudly hold the flag of Nigeria aloft in all his endeavors in the elevated position. In a statement which also reads, with wide experience as Pro-Chancellor at the University of East London, Dean of the School of Built Environment and Architecture at London South Bank University, and stints at University of Salford, University College London, Glasgow Caledonian University, Leeds Beckett University, among others, I have no doubt that you will account yourself creditably once again in this new assignment. He went on to say that Professor Igbu, a foremost quantity surveyor with 12 books and over 350 publications to his credit, is a worthy example of an industrious Nigerian whom the younger generation should adopt as a role model. The president encourages the new VC to build on the strong foundations laid by his predecessors at the university, where he is equally an alumnus. Let's turn attention to politics. Ahead of the governorship primary of the All Progressives Congress in Ondo State, the chairman of the Primary Election Committee and Governor of Kogi State, Mr. Yaya Bello, says the party will select its candidate through the indirect mode of primary election. Mr. Bello explains that the task before the committee is to conduct free, fair and credible primary election. He reiterates the commitment of members of the committee to abide by party guidelines which recommended indirect mode of primary election.
On the issue of the mode of primaries, this has been settled by the previous NWC, ratified by NEC, which gives the opportunity to the state executive committee to choose the mode of primaries they would want. This has been settled that the Ondo primaries election will be conducted via indirect primaries. This was selected or was the option chosen by the Ondo State chapter of the All Progressives Congress and ratified by National Executive Committee of our great party in the last meeting. So we're going for indirect primaries. But let me put it this way. From what I know about our party politics, especially in APC, I was once a contestant And there I had opponents. And from what I come to realize, it is not within the purview of contestants to choose rules of engagement. We follow laid down rules and regulations of the party.
Meanwhile, in Edo State, 35 political parties under the aegis of Coalition of Political Parties in Edo State have unanimously agreed to work with the People's Democratic Party ahead of the September 19 governorship election. The chairman of Social Democratic Party, SDP, Mr. Collins Erewan, who spoke on behalf of the group, said they are stepping down from the governorship race to back Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki in his second-term bid. He's also asking the PDP to include them in the main campaign organization for the governorship polls.
We resolved that instead of acting as individual entities, it will be more effective to support the governor as a bloc with our existing party structures across the state. We resolve also to advise our individual governorship candidates to withdraw and join hands with Governor Obaseki to build on the growth and development legacies and foundation he has laid in the first tenure. We shall, on this note, synergize with the People's Democratic Party to mobilize the voters at the grassroots on the reasons why Governor Godwin Obaseki should return as governor. His legacies of positive economic development, positive industrial revolution, positive, comprehensive and qualitative educational programs, positive workers' welfare packages, positive security architecture, positive growth of agricultural value chains, and positive and friendly taxes, levies, and risk regime, positive and conducive business environment, and positive and harmonious community relations must be sustained.
To security matters, the Oyo State Police Command has paraded 3 suspects in connection with the killings of 3 residents of Akinyele local government area of the state. The suspects were reportedly involved in the murder of the 3 young ladies recently killed in the local government area last month. The State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chuks Inwanwu, who paraded the suspects, says the trial began in June when the phone of one of the victims was recovered and traced to one of the suspects.
The unknown notorious hoodlum brutally attacked the said pregnant lady, but before she was later hacked to death in cold blood, and her Techno mobile phone carted away. The incident was reported at Ondo Divisional Police Headquarters Ibadan on 5th of April 2020. And the Commissioner of Police Oyo State Command immediately mobilized SAS operatives with policemen from the State CIID Ibadan and visited the scene of crime for on-the-spot assessment. One Sheikh Usman male was arrested in connection with the crime, and the Techno phone belonging to the slain woman was recovered from him.
"20 buildings have been sealed in Lekki, Etiosa local government area of Lagos by officials of the State Materials Testing Laboratory. The buildings were sealed to serve as an example to show what would happen to unauthorized structures and to guard against frequent collapse of buildings. The general manager of the agency, Mr. Folabi Abiodun, led the enforcement team. Our correspondent Titilayo Aberiowo reports. And when the news at 10 returns, Nigeria's inflation rate hits 26-month high, climbs for the 10th month in June amid rising food prices. That's in Business News. Join us again.
Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's bring you a bit more now about those residents of Akinyele local government area of the state where we reportedly had killings. We have another perspective now from the suspects. We'll probably look at that a little bit later. But before we do that, Dangote Group has unveiled the Dangote Bag of Goodies Season 2 Spell and Be a Millionaire promo tailored towards changing the standards of living of consumers and the company's products. The group managing director of Dangote Cement, Michael Puchikos, says the prizes have great economic value as they can be used to kick off small-scale businesses in the face of the coronavirus pandemic.
This is your unveiling of the Dangote Bag of Goodies Season 2 Spell and Be a Millionaire promo. The promo is part of strategies to reward consumers for their partnership in ensuring that the range of cement products remain the first choice for construction purposes across the country.
We want to help Nigerians in this coronavirus environment by offering a win-win opportunity to win 1 million. Why win-win? Because of course they will buy cement bags and definitely it will help Dangote itself, but by giving back this opportunity of winning 1 million in this coronavirus environment, we offer some very important ways of starting a business.
Season 2 of the Dangote Bag of Goodies promo is specifically aimed at helping Nigerians win some money and other prizes during the COVID-19 pandemic. The promo kicked off on July the 15th and ends November the 15th.
It's double-edged. You scratch and win instantly. And then at the back of the scratch card, there are alphabets, there are letters that consumers will have to pick letters that make up Dangote, D-A-N-G-O-T-E. And once that is done, they're an automatic millionaire. So.
While commending the initiative by Dangote Group, the National Lottery Regulatory Commission promises to ensure the successful implementation of the promo.
When winners emerge, we will make sure that they get their prizes. We will make sure that Dangote Cement PLC delivers on their promises to ensure the utmost satisfaction of the prize winners.
Dangote Group has been at the forefront of efforts to tackle and cushion the effect of the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria.
The late Ibidunni Ighodalo might not have lived to see her 40th birthday, but her wish was to use the occasion to support 40 couples facing challenges of infertility. Well, that dream is still alive as her foundation and a couple of well-meaning Nigerians have commenced plans to actualize her vision. The Ibidunni Ighodalo Foundation says it's targeting to raise up 150 million naira for the project.
After about maybe 10 years of marriage and 11 failed IVS, she changed one of her dreams, not just to physically having children, but to ensuring that she could make it possible for every lady who desired to have children, or every family who desired to have children, to have their own, regardless of their financial status. Everybody knew that this was my wife's desire. My brother, myself, her family, my friends, and her friends decided that whatever it cost us, we would ensure that 40 couples got the opportunity to go through the procedure, and hopefully we'll get a 40 by 40 100% response because of the grace of God. I said 40 couples, 36 of them representing 36 states of Nigeria, one of them representing Abuja, and 3 of them representing the 3 regions that were founding of Nigeria, making a total of 40. Each procedure costs at least 2 million. We may be able to get discounts from various health institutions that partner with us. But sometimes, depending on the complexity, it may even go as far as 3 or maybe 4 million, because we really want to work hard to make this thing possible.
The remains of Flying Officer Tolulokpe Arotile, the Nigerian Air Force's first female combat helicopter pilot, will be laid to rest at the National Military Cemetery in Abuja on July the 23rd, 2020. According to the Nigerian Air Force, the late Arotile, who died on July the 14th, 2020, will be buried with full military honors. Tolulokpe died at the NAF base in Kaduna, where she was reportedly hit by a car. Well, as promised, we're going to talk about the residents of Akinyele local government area of that particular state. Let's see what the suspects have to say for themselves, as we have heard from the other side earlier on.
Kí n tó lọ pa àwọn èèyàn máa ọkọ̀ lọ sọ́dọ̀ àbá wọ́n dẹ̀ máa ní kí n kúlọ̀ kí n díjú wọ́n máa pọ̀fọ̀ tán bá dẹ̀ ti pọ̀fọ̀ tán wọ́n máa ní kí n lanu wọ́n á fi nǹkan tọ́ mi lẹ́nu lẹ́ẹ̀mẹ́ta so tí n bá ti fi nǹkan ṣáwọn lórí pé tẹ́jẹ̀ bá ti yọ kí n ṣe ha 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 ó dùn ẹbọ ó dùn ètùtù pé kí n sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ẹ̀mẹ́ta ẹni yẹn bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni ẹni yẹn dẹ̀ kọjú sí mi. So mo sọ́fẹ̀ yẹn mo fi ṣá ẹni yẹn kódà iwájú wọn báyìí ni mo dúró sí wọn ò dẹ̀ rí mi.
èmi ọmọ ń parẹ́ o èmi ọmọ ń parẹ́ èmi kí mo rán èmi kí mo rán èmi ètò nǹkan kan sí lẹ́nu láti 2016 oṣù kẹjọ tó ti kú lọ́dọ̀ mi níjọ́ tí àwọn CID wá pè mí lọ́ndẹ̀ 5 mi ta ti ń ṣe òkú tá à ń sìnkú àlíwọ̀ lọ́lọ́nkoro.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks, Ijoma. Welcome to Business News. In line with analysts' forecasts, Nigeria's headline inflation soared to its highest level in 2 years at 12.56% in June, and that's the 10th consecutive month increase. According to the data released today by the National Bureau of Statistics, it's the highest point reached since March 2018, when inflation was at 13.34%, and this is largely due to the impact of restrictions on access to foreign exchange and continued border closures. At the same time, core inflation rose to 10.13% last month. Food inflation jumped to 15.18% due to steady increases in prices of basic foodstuff, while urban and rural inflation rates also rose to 13.18% and 11.99% accordingly. With the latest increase in the country's inflation, all eyes are now set on the central bank's next move ahead of its Monetary Policy Committee meeting on Monday, July the 20th. South Africa's central bank is expected to cut its repo rate for the 5th time this year, most likely by 25 basis points to an all-time low of 3.5% at its Monetary Policy Committee meeting next week. According to latest survey by Reuters, the country's economy is also expected to contract 38.7% in the last quarter of 2020, which would be its highest since 1993. South Africa's Reserve Bank cut rates by 50 basis points in May after 2 aggressive 100 basis point cuts in March and April, as the country's economy was shut down to limit the spread of the coronavirus. Well, Friday's trading session at the equities market ended negative after a 2-day moderate rebound following fresh round of profit taken by investors, while turnover of shares traded fell by 22.61%. Temple Ashaju tells us more.
Thank you for joining us again on the Stock Market Report. The domestic equities market closed the week on a negative note as the all-share index declined by some 0.17% today, bringing the weekly performance down to 0.07%. Local stocks have been reeling from losses lately as the absence of catalysts weaken investor sentiment. This is worsened today by the news of a 12.56% increase in headline inflation rate for June 2020, representing the 10th consecutive month of increase in the consumer price index. Now, the sell-offs today reflect in the insurance stocks, with the price decline that we saw on custodian investments and linkage assurance, as well as major banking names. But the negative performance of the local stock market is not limited to Nigeria, as transactions in other African markets have been mixed lately. And that's your stock market report. I'm Temple Ashaju.
Thanks, Temple. On the other hand, despite some mild sell-offs, major global stock markets ended Friday's trading session mostly positive as investors focus attention on the meeting of EU leaders on the proposed €750 billion stimulus for the Eurozone. Here are some of the closing numbers. And that's business news tonight. It's back to you, Ijeoma.
Thanks, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson believes COVID-19 restrictions will ease further in England by Christmas. Plus more stories from our London studio in Around the World in 5. Please stay with us. Welcome back. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says restrictions will ease further in the UK on the plans for a significant return to normalcy by Christmas, but conditional. Simon Pusey tells us more in international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The number of coronavirus cases in India has passed the 1 million milestone as a record number of infections, nearly 35,000, were reported in the last 24 hours alone. The country of 1.3 billion people is behind only the United States and Brazil in the number of confirmed infections, and there is no sign yet of the curve flattening. India's testing rate is also among the lowest in the world in relation to its population. In Brazil, the second worst hit country after the US, the number of confirmed infections has passed 2 million. But President Jair Bolsonaro, who tested positive for the virus last week, has continued to play down its health risks and has fought against social distancing orders, calling their economic effects worse than the disease itself.
For weddings and corporate events.
Australia's New South Wales state has said it will ban dancing, singing and mingling at large-scale gatherings as neighbouring Victoria has reported a record daily increase in infections.
Give the NHS.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced that coronavirus restrictions will ease further in England under plans for a significant return to normality by Christmas. But he warned that while he was hoping for the best, the country must also prepare for the worst. The United Nations has made an appeal for over $10 billion to help fight the coronavirus pandemic, which is its largest ever fundraising call.
COVID-19.
The UN has said that up to 265 million people could face starvation by the end of the year because of the impact of the virus. The money will be used for low-income and fragile countries in an attempt to compensate for the lack of support by wealthy nations during the crisis. European Union leaders have met face-to-face for the first time in months with low expectations of a deal on a €750 billion stimulus package. 27 leaders all wore masks as they greeted each other at the summit in Brussels with elbow bumps rather than handshakes. French President Emmanuel Macron said the event was a moment of truth for Europe, while European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the stakes could not be higher.
We have the chance not only to overcome the crisis, but also to modernize our single market and our union, to bring forward the European Green Deal and the digitalization. And therefore, this day today is of utmost importance.
Meanwhile, campaigners piled sacks of fake banknotes outside the summit as they called on leaders not to channel coronavirus recovery funds into sectors responsible for climate change. The economic crisis in Lebanon has led to many Ethiopian migrant domestic workers being fired and abandoned outside their country's consulate in Beirut. Around 650 women have returned to Ethiopia, but many more have remained stranded in Lebanon. Lebanese labour laws offer little protection for migrant workers. The best the women can hope for is that a charity will help them get home. Fighting has erupted in Taiwan's parliament again over the disputed nomination by President Tsai Ing-wen of a senior aide to a top government watchdog post, which the main opposition party has labelled as cronyism. The Kuomintang, or KMT, has mounted a noisy campaign against the nomination of Chen Chu to head of the Control Yuan, an independent government watchdog. The voting on Friday went ahead despite shouting and protests from KMT lawmakers who held banners reading "Invalid Vote." Meanwhile, flash floods and landslides have killed at least 30 people on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi and left hundreds of people displaced. The flash floods struck the North Luwu district of South Sulawesi province after heavy rain on Monday caused 3 nearby rivers to burst. More than 4,000 residents have been affected. Indonesia frequently suffers from floods and landslides, but the situation has been made much worse by the cutting down of forests. Several beachfront houses on Australia's east coast are at risk of collapsing due to severe coastal erosion following powerful swells in the area. Some of the residents in Wamberal, a coastal town 1.5 hours from Sydney, have been evacuated after emergency personnel warned that the residences could collapse into the sea below. Captain Sir Tom Moore has received his knighthood from the Queen at Windsor Castle in his own personal ceremony.
Isn't everybody gets the chance to see the Queen, is it?
The 100-year-old veteran led a fundraising effort that encouraged members of the public to donate £32 million to National Health Service charities during the coronavirus lockdown. Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a special nomination for the war veteran to be knighted in May. And finally, Princess Beatrice has married Italian property tycoon Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi at a private ceremony in Windsor. The ceremony on Friday morning at the Royal Chapel of All Saints at Royal Lodge was attended by her grandparents, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, along with close family. Buckingham Palace has said the wedding took place in accordance with all relevant government guidelines. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Simon. On to some sports. Here's Jeffrey Uzongo.
Thanks, German. Now to sports. The wait is over. Leeds United have finally gained promotion to the Premier League after spending 16 years away from England's top division. Leeds' promotion to the top flight was confirmed after second place West Brom lost at Huddersfield. West Brom's loss, coupled with Leeds' 1-0 win over Barnsley in Thursday's Yorkshire derby, means Marcelo Bielsa's side are short of a top 2 finish in the Championship. That's regardless of the outcome of their remaining 2 games. Super Eagles' first-choice goalkeeper Francis Uzor has signed for Cyprus giants Apoel Nicosia. The 21-year-old joins on a 3-year deal from Deportivo La Coruña, where he has played the majority of his career. Uzor spent last season on loan with another Cyprus side, Omonia Nicosia, and previously kept goal for Anathosis from Augusta, also in Cyprus. Former Chelsea forward Andre Scholler has announced his retirement from football at the age of 29. Scholler had cancelled the remainder of his contract with Bundesliga side Dortmund earlier in the week. He spent last season on loan in Russia with Spartak Moscow, having enjoyed a similar stint with Fulham in the previous campaign. He won the Premier League with Chelsea, the German Cup with both Dortmund and Wolfsburg, as well as the 2014 FIFA World Cup in a career that has spanned 11 years. World Athletics President Lord Coe has been elected as a member of the International Olympics Committee. Coe's candidacy was proposed after he changed his status as sports marketing firm CSM to a non-executive role over a potential conflict of interest. He had been turned down for IOC membership a number of times. Recently in December, the 2-time Olympic champion became head of athletics world governing body in 2015. And that's it on sports. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo. It's back to you, German.
Thanks a lot, Jeffrey. And on entertainment news, multiple award-winning Nigerian singer Wizkid celebrates 30th birthday with a collaboration with Grammy Award-winning American singer. Ekaite Afia has more.
Here are your trending entertainment stories. New pictures released early Friday morning have sparked rumors that Nollywood actress and fashion designer Liz Anjorin had secretly gotten married. The pictures depict the usual Yoruba traditional settings, and the identity of her alleged husband is yet to be established. In a cryptic post of her own on social media, Anjorin posted a picture of what appears to be the bejeweled hands of a bride and groom. Meanwhile, Nigerian international music act Wizkid has dropped a new single featuring her, titled Smile, to celebrate his 30th birthday. The multiple award-winning singer had initially been rumored to be planning a surprise album release on the day. Wizkid also hinted that he will be releasing another single titled Cool Me Down, featuring DJ Tunes in a couple of days. Rapper, actor, radio, and TV show host Nick Cannon has revealed that he would be stepping away for a while from his radio show after an uproar over anti-Semitic comments that led to him being dropped by an American television network. In a series of messages on Twitter, Cannon confirmed that he would be stepping away so that he can commit to himself deeper, more thorough reflection and education. This follows earlier apologies for remarks he made in a podcast last month concerning the unsubstantiated claim often asserted by hate groups that Jews control the music industry and the media. Well, that's all for tonight. I'm Akaite Afia, and it's back to the main news.
Thanks, Akaite. And the main news again. The controversy in the Niger Delta Development Commission continued today as the House of Representatives summoned the Niger Delta Affairs Minister, Godwill Akpabio, and the interim managing director of the commission, David Ponde, over a series of allegations. Also today, the River State Police Command asked Governor Nyesom Wike to hand over the sacked NDDC Managing Director, Joy Nunye, for questioning. Mrs. Nunye is currently seeking protection against illegal arrest at the River State Government House. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson today said the COVID-19 restrictions will ease further in England by Christmas. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Unyato. Do have a good weekend, but stay safe while you do it. Good night.